Okay, so we're gonna start putting in our sky here, and I've sped the video up a little bit so you guys don't have to sit there and watch me put this together that slowly. I'm sure you get super bored, but we looked at a reference, we grabbed a photo of a sky we like, and bring it in here, transform it in, and one thing I'm looking at too is the horizon right there. I really like that light side, so that's why I brought this in. Now we get a little tree in here. I'm gonna grab the clone tool and clone out this really quickly, and it doesn't have to be super clean because it's gonna, we're gonna erase that part out, but we just don't want any artifacts just in case we have some smooth blending and those values show up. So we're gonna position near our horizon line with a nice soft brush. We're gonna paint out the bottom there. Gonna add another curve tool and clip it and just bring the lights and darks, so we change the contrast in that. We want to soften it up, and we took out the warmth in that just to cool it down a little bit, so the reds, and put a hue and saturation just to pull the color out. We flattened that out because we want to duplicate this and use it for the other side as well. See if we can create a nice long horizon line there. And if you look at the photos, the light source is in the middle, so we want the, as the horizon fades from the light source, we want it to get a little bit darker. So we decided we didn't like that one. Oh, delete it by accident. I'm going to bring it in again. Really like the perspective lines in this element here. So I think we want to use it for that side. Now keep in mind that that left side is going to be covered with a big mountain. So we just want something there. So we're not too worried about that really bright spot of the horizon line. We're going to adjust it again to the other element, adjusting contrast and color, pulling the warmth out, cooling it down a little bit, and pulling out the saturation just a little bit to match the other element. Again, looking at your reference, you want to create that the value structure inside of your sky as well. You don't want the shadows to be too dark. So the contrast in that sky element, you want to keep right. I'm going to bring in this element here for our centerpiece, right behind our focal area to draw more attention to it. I really liked this element and the epic kind of feel to that centerpiece, almost like a hole and light's coming through and creates this contrast. So I'm going to use it and blend it in a little bit. I'm going to do a little color correct, taking down the warmth again and just cooling it, and then hue and saturation, pull out some of that color. Now, I didn't use clipping mask for this one because these elements are so close together, we won't be adjusting it, back and forth. There isn't that much. So we can kind of do it in one shot. They're very close in color and value and stuff, so we don't need to add more clipping masks of adjustment layers. Turning it on and off, seeing if you like it there, blending it in with a nice soft brush, making sure that it kind of flows and the structure of the clouds makes sense as well. We're not just arbitrarily slapping in elements that will turn into a photo bash really quickly and just look off. So we want to make sure that these elements kind of flow together structurally as well. They're not just randomly placed. A horizon line, pretty straight. I want to break that up. That was one of the other things I was talking about earlier, is we never want a straight harsh line going through our painting. So I'm going to look for a horizon line here that has some breakup, and this element has really nice breakup right there in the horizon line with those cloud bursts. So that's something I might use just to break up that big strong white line across our canvas. Again, nice soft brush, trying to blend in the pixels. We're going to just make sure our value in that element is correct. It matches there. And again, I have my reference off to the side on my side monitor, so I'm always looking at the reference to doing this. I'm not really guessing. So right there, I looked at a grayscale version of that photo that I pulled it from to see what the values are compared to the top clouds, and try to match it somehow there. It's essential that you pay attention to those things, when you're using elements and trying to get a realistic sky. Is look at the reference and check out the values and make sure they're correct in space. So just painting down that side to get rid of that bright area there and add some breakup. Again, that left side will be out of the painting, so I'm not too worried about that. Now I may use another element later to create that fall off from the light source. So the brightest part of that horizon line should be right underneath that light source in that focal area, and then it should fade off to a darker area like we have on that side, like I just turned on there. Might look for another element that has that I can paint in. Looking at different photos, seeing what I can use, and just looking at the horizon line for this one. This is where you kind of use that exposure meter there. With the raw data, you can edit it before you bring it in. That was exposed down, so just closing my files here. Keep it clean. I'm going to save this off. It's very important you save frequently, especially with large files like this, because you're going to get a lot of crash. I just cut it off so you didn't have to see that there. And I noticed that I didn't like the way that element was working in the painting. It wasn't blending right, so I'm just going to get rid of it and do it again and see if I can make something better work here. Let me flip it. It just wasn't working for me, so I'm going to try again. Flipping it, see if this works a little better. Yeah, I like that dark side of that cloud coming from there. So it kind of draws your eye from dark to light from that side of the canvas into the focal area as well. Acts as a compositional tool. Yeah, I like that a lot better than the last one. It looks like it flows into the sky a lot more too. It doesn't have that photo bash feel. Has a little bit more structure held in with the other elements. Yeah, I really like that. So just again with a nice soft brush blending it in, really starting to work now. Still working on this horizon line, trying to make sure that works. Our brightest spot is in that focal area. It's gonna need a little cleanup and some work. Yeah, just notice an edge there that I'm gonna paint out. And I just noticed that this is coming in through our painting, and just grabbing a clone brush and painting it out. Pretty quick. Pretty easy stuff here. Yeah, now we won't have any part of that. Even we do a nice soft gradient in that clipping mask to bring that layer back, and we won't get those values in it. So I found this nice piece right there. It's to bring in for that dark horizon. That was what I was talking about, from light to dark, and I'm just going to duplicate it over and use that information in here. Nice soft brush to blend that. Keep the focal area behind the ships that we wanted nice and bright. And softly blending that in, blending those pixels. Turn things on and off always to see what you've done, what looks better. What just because you bring in an element and you bring it in, you kind of blend it, doesn't mean that it's working right. Like how I replaced that top cloud. Always turn it off and on. Get a feel for it. See if you like it. Try other things, and get the best element to work in there. It's not all about just using a really cool photo. You want to make sure that it works in with your painting, because you can use the coolest photo, but if it doesn't work with the rest of the painting, it's just going to fall apart and just stand out. It's not going to look good. So again, adjusting it, the temperature of that thing was a little too warm, so I'm just correcting a little bit back to match the other elements, pulling out the reds. It was feeling a little too magenta. The warms were a little too bright. Too warm. Just painting that in subtly too. Doesn't have to be too harsh. Again, we're gonna fog up that horizon line too. That we notice in our reference that that horizon line is pretty foggy, so we're gonna paint over that on top of that too. So we're not gonna fuss too much about that. Correcting, now we can correct the beach again to match our sky. We can see some things are off, so we're gonna head back into it, paint into those masks and get it working with the color, the value. You can see I'm brightening that part up because now it fits a little better. I'm just constantly going back and forth, adjusting this. So I think we're in good shape right now. Just minor tweaks, but I think for the most part the sky is working. I'm happy with it. And see if we can move on to the next step here. Save it.